A game farmers association or something similar that is supposed to, well, that links up with the government, and then there's a number of pieces of legislation that regulate the game farming industry. So we've got the National Environmental Management and Biodiversity Act, which regulates the movement of species, mostly mammal species, around the country, and certain species, they're called TOPS species, threatened or protected species, have got to have special permits in order to be moved. There's regulations on the fencing requirements for particular reserves. If you want to have large animals like elephants or other dangerous animals like lions, you need to have specialized electric fencing that's got to be a certain height. So all of that regulation stems from that act, and there's also several pieces of legislation that deal with inappropriate movement of animals that may not necessarily have occurred in that region, and there are particular rules that have to be followed. There's a bunch of veterinary regulations as well, so animals shouldn't just be moved randomly across the country. There's specialized permitting that has to happen, and there is also certain regulations for the types of species that you would like to have on your property.
In your opinion, is there any legislation that should be revised for the betterment of the game farming industry?
I'm not aware of any that needs to be revised at the moment. That's probably because of where I sit as a researcher. So if you pose the same question to somebody who is working in the field, they'd probably say that some of the legislation is restrictive and they need to have certain things changed or some things lifted for particular activities that they'd like to pursue. I think at the moment, from where I'm sitting, I think that the legislation is relatively sound. There are certain things that need to be sorted out, like damage-causing animal legislation, and various other pieces of legislation. But I think, by and large, I think that the current legislation is probably good enough.